wanted to like this game so badly. Imagine you're in a super advanced future where you get to travel around the world and break into museums to steal back African artifacts that had been stolen through colonization. You assemble a unique team of African historians and technologists, and you assign them roles on each mission to hack security systems and evade guards. And combined with your athletic skills, you and your team manage to repatriate these African artifacts back to their countries of origin, setting one wrong thing in the world right. That sounds like fun, right? Today, I'm breaking down my experience with the game Relooted and how this game went from the top of my Steam wishlist to being almost the first game I did not complete on this channel. Hey y'all! Welcome to my channel, vstreetlove. I'm Vanessa, my pronouns are she, her, and on this channel I like to make silly Sims videos, and sometimes I review the games that I play on live stream. Yes, when I first heard about Relooted, I was like, a heist video game that centers Black people and African history? Hell yeah! But after playing it, I was like, Relooted is a side-scroller Afrofuturist heist puzzle game about a team of African folks with special skills repatriating African artifacts from Western museums. The word repatriate literally means to return to its country of origin, and I had a tough time with that word while I was playing. Repatriate? Why can I never remember the word? Repatriation. Repatriate. The game opens up with Nomali saving her brother Trevor from being held captive by Drissa and his cronies Alpha and Tau. Trevor is like a securities techie guy, and he sold Drissa some bad security system or something because he was like, Drissa is a bad guy and we don't want him having good security. But then it's like Drissa was big mad about it. So Drissa kidnapped Trevor with the goal of, I don't even know what exactly, maybe to kill him? I have no idea. And so Trevor called his big sis to come and rescue him. And in that, we get our first taste of Nomali's parkour skills, okay, and the gameplay mechanics. The game is a side-scroller type of puzzle game where we get an objective of what we need to do and what we need to take, plan out the process of getting the item, and then take it and leave, triggering the security system and having to evade the guards in order to make our escape. And the very first mission we do is actually the prequel where we have to save our brother. After Nomali rescues her brother, we go back to their hometown, Johannesburg. While there, we meet old friends of Nomali, we meet her old boss, and we found out that she's been away for a while, maybe at college. I don't exactly remember those details. But then we are introduced to the real mission and story of this game, where we meet Professor Grace, who is Nomali and Trevor's grandmother, and her mentee, Etienne. You see him with his African necklace? I don't know about him. Professor Grace was like a former history professor. I think she's retired. And her mentee, Etienne, is a graduate student who currently works in the museum space. And they've gathered Nomali here, okay, to discuss their cockamamie idea. This is when this old lady tells her granddaughter, like, hey, we want to go around the world and we want to take back these African artifacts. And the reason why she wants to do this is because while she was a professor, she helped work on the Transatlantic Returns Treaty, which was an agreement for museums to return back African artifacts to their countries of origin. But the museums are not playing ball. Basically, they're like, they found a loophole.
There's an old clause in the treaty that uses the words public display.
Basically saying all artifacts that are currently on display to the public need to be returned.
Museums are now using that old clause to basically remove artifacts from public display under the auspices of changing exhibits, maintenance, etc. They don't intend to put these artifacts back on display and are also not disclosing what they have in storage. They intend to have display for private viewings instead.
Doesn't sound like some white people shit. Using the loophole to take advantage so you don't have to give back some stuff that's not yours. So Professor Grace is basically like, hey, you want to help me, Etienne, and Trevor go around the world and take this stuff? And at first Nomali's like, nah, I'm not doing that, and you ain't doing it either. And Prof Grace is basically like,
we could do this by ourselves, but Trevor insisted we'd tell you about it.
we don't need you? but I feel like you want to be a part. So Nomali joins because her grandmother and her brother is involved, and she figures that it's better to be there to help protect them. From there, we go on our first mission to get our first artifact. We learn some of the skills that Trevor has with security. We see Nomali's skills of parkour in action again, but basically they decide they need more help. So Nomali goes on kind of like a spree, bringing on more people onto the team. She hires Fred, aka Baldy, who becomes the gadget guy, and he's also kind of a tech guy. And at first I was like, did they have a thing with each other? Like there was a vibe happening, and then we realized, nah, because Fred is gay and he's got a husband at home, and we love the representation in the game, if nothing else. Then later, Nomali recruits Indedi. I called Indedi Spider-Man the whole time because his whole skill was supposed to be like he was an acrobat or something, but it felt very much like he had web slinging capabilities like Spider-Man. She met Indedi through her old boss, who was a guy of East Asian descent. So I just assumed, because we didn't see Indedi's face, that he also was of East Asian descent, and then boom, face reveal. Oh my God, he was black. Then after a few more missions, they get hacked by someone named Cryptic. Cryptic is a teenage girl.
How old are you?
15 and 4 days.
No. Who convinces Nomali to let her join the team of adults going around the world to steal artifacts from museums using her hacking skills. Mind you, okay, they already have a securities person, and he clearly isn't very good at his job, Trevor. And then on top of that, they already have Fred, who also deals with security and technology somehow. And so again, I don't know how this teenager was able to break into their systems and figure out what they were doing. Clearly they needed her support, but also again, child. She is a child. As the game enters its third act, Drissa, Alpha, and Tal make a reappearance. And they're basically like, so that's cute and all that you escaped, but you still owe us money from that botched security system that you sold us. And a matter of fact, I want double what you owe me. And at that point, I think they decide that they need additional muscle, like they need more help. So Trevor recruits his friend Luso, who it's kind of like implied that maybe they dated or something, because Luso owes Trevor and like would do anything for him. Although to me, Luso is very lesbian coded. So I don't know their history. They never actually explain it, but Luso's there to be the muscle of the team. At this point, I will insert a little bit of a spoiler warning if you don't actually want to know what happens, because this is kind of where the plot starts getting good. So jump to the timestamp below if you don't want to know exactly what happens. Anyway, so after this whole Drissa shows back up and they need muscle situation, Nomali starts getting phone calls from a mysterious anonymous caller, basically being like, someone on the team cannot be trusted. I wonder who that might be. So Nomali and Trevor end up going on an incognito, like secret mission, not letting anybody else know, to find out who this anonymous caller is. Turns out the mysterious caller's name is Zora, and she's like a professional thief or something, and she's gonna be hired by a guy named Mark Gray. And I guess Mark Gray is kind of a weirdo because he's a white guy that wants African artifacts for himself, because it's like, to the victors go the glory, something weird like that. And so Zora was like,
Gray is not my kind of client, and this was not my kind of job. To thank me for hearing out his offer, Mark sent me a little gift, a replica of an ancient artifact. Fun fact, arsenic was used in the preservation of certain old artifacts.
But Zora basically is like, he thinks that I'm dead, but I'm not dead, and I'm here to warn you that someone on your team is working with Mark Gray. Take a shot in the dark who you think was working with Mark Gray. Yeah, Etienne! And I called it from the beginning. I didn't know exactly how it was gonna play out, because I kind of thought that Drissa was the main and only big bad. But as soon as I saw Etienne, I was like, I don't know about him. I like his name, but everything else, I'm not sure. And then there was also a part during the game where you can go talk to the characters. I have Nomali go and talk to Etienne.
Any news from the world of museums and collectors?
What do you mean?
If I ask you if there's any news in the world of museums about what we're doing, and you respond with, what do you mean? You're sus as hell. You are the guy on the inside. I'm telling you, I doubt that the twist at the end of this game is that the white man has been working to steal back the artifacts and really he's selling them to somebody. I doubt that that's the twist.
Several hours later.
Etienne.
No, he's our inside man.
And a traitor.
Zora's here to confirm that Mark Gray is actually Etienne's true mentor. So when Nomali and Trevor return from that secret mission, they've discovered that, boom! The place has been ransacked. The items that they relooted have been relooted, gone, missing. The team is turning on each other at this point because they're like, who took the stuff? Who took the stuff? And I'm kind of like, I mean, Nomali and Trevor know what's up at this point. And at that point, it's when Mark Gray comes up on the like table thing that they have that can like, you know, show items and stuff. He like hacked their system and he basically is like, I'm Mark Gray and I've kidnapped Cryptic, and if you want Cryptic back, you're gonna do one last job. I want them diamonds, baby. They go on the job, they come back, they give Mark Gray his diamonds, they get Cryptic, but then Trevor's like, this is bogus, the bad guys always win. So they do one last job. And Nomali's like, let's go to Mark Gray's house. Let's steal everything he's got. They gather everything. You know, you're basically doing one last mission in the game. They get everything on their way out. Mark Gray and Etienne kind of ambush them. And he's like, you ain't going anywhere. We knew you were going to do this. Y'all are so predictable. But guess who shows up to have their back? Drissa, Alpha, and Tau. Ain't that about a bitch? I literally like, oh, okay, so this is how this ties in. The team basically agreed to give Drissa the diamonds that they stole to settle their debt, and then let him have Mark Gray and Etienne to do whatever he wants with them. Don't know what that's about. What should we do with them, Nomali? Whatever you want.
We'll leave it up to you, Drissa.
Then let us leave his fate unspoken. Alpha, Tau, take them both.
Oh, so you just kidnapping white men? And yeah, that's the end of the game. As far as the actual gameplay itself, Relooted plays as a side-scroller puzzle heist game. More or less, most of the missions go as follows. At first, you have to like scope out the map, basically using a little drone created by Fred called Nunu. So you're using Nunu to kind of like reveal different parts of the map. From there, you're basically mapping out your route of how you're going to grab the items and escape. Along the way, you can assign your team members to different points with using their special skills to help you get through the museum. Once you're ready to take the items, you grab them and it triggers the alarm, and then you have to get out as fast as you can, evading the guards. In order to navigate the map, sometimes you have to like step on a button, which is like a lever for a door, use a table as a weight for those buttons, and then crash through glass and like jump around a lot using Nomali's parkour skills. There's also speed boosts that you can use as you are escaping, which help you get out faster. Because at the end of each round, you get a rating, and that rating is based on how many artifacts that you grabbed, how many collectibles that you viewed, how fast you went, and how many speed boosts that you used. Because each exit is like timed. You have to do it within like 2 minutes or something. And it's fairly easy to do that. My first go, but my first try! Don't believe the rumors. That was my second attempt. That was my first attempt. I would say that the gameplay mechanics are simple, but sometimes I found it a little confusing. I often felt like I would hit the button to like grab the table or move the table, for example, and like sometimes it just wouldn't work. Hello? What's going on? I don't know what just happened. Do you guys see what I'm dealing with this damn table mechanic? Or there were times where I wasn't sure if I used the speed boost during my escape, because in order to get through the escape, oftentimes you were able to go over the hurdles and the obstacles without actually pressing the speed boost button. So the mechanic of the speed boost, I was kind of like, I mean, I don't need to use the speed boost to get out quickly though. So that to me was, I was a little bit lost. One thing that I thought was really silly about the game mechanic were the tables. You use tables to prop open doors or use them as like a counterweight for triggers on the floor. Whether you were outside, inside, on the roof, on a balcony, there was always a table there for you to use for this. I kind of wish that they diversified the objects that we could use in those cases, because it was like, why is there always a table? The other thing that I thought was a little bit weird with the gameplay is in the last mission of the game, the very last mission, I have played hours of the game at this point. There was random fade to blacks between sections as you were escaping. They had never done that before. So I'm playing, trying to escape, and all of a sudden, fade to black. So much more. Wait, what? What just happened? What was that cutscene? Guys, I cannot explain more. These cut to blacks are throwing me off. I felt like I was playing the escape and they just kind of cut out a part that they hadn't designed yet and then put me back into a part that they did design. The story beats were also trying to convince me that Nomali was like a reckless team leader, which, to be fair, she did bring on a child who later got kidnapped. So that is a little questionable, but there were times when Fred was kind of like acting as if he thought he was a team leader.
Next time you want to add a new person to the team, I'd like to meet them first.
This is what I'm talking about. He thinks he's in charge of me, and he doesn't know he is not.
Done.
That's not done, and then she's agreeing. But in like a major confrontational conversation, the options to respond to Fred when he calls her out are basically, oh, you're right, or I'm sorry. Never. You would never catch me. I'd be like, oh, well, I guess that's the way you feel about it. Maybe you're right. Because I'm like, am I sorry?
Right.
No.
I'm being a little bit of a dictator.
Did men write this? Did men write this? Did men write this? Did men write this? Because to say I'm being a little bit of a dictator, girl, you're literally not.
More like hard-headed.
Hard-headed! To me, the writing wasn't very convincing. Even when Cryptic got kidnapped, people in my chat were like, I feel like if they had done a better job with the characters and them connecting, I'd care more if the child was kidnapped. Now, I played the game on balance mode, and I would say that balanced was balance leaning easy. There were a couple of times where I was messing up or it was taking me a little bit longer to figure out what to do, but the puzzles themselves were pretty simplistic. I could have made it a little bit more difficult while I was playing, but I got to a point where I was just like, I want to finish this. I'm not having fun. Because my overall critique with Relooted is that it felt like homework. Oh my God. Because the artifacts that they were taking are real life artifacts that are like in the ether, okay? So they are trying to teach us about real life history, but they're doing it in a way that's just presenting the information as if it's like a factoid card on a museum placard.
Is a very rare Ngil mask from Gabon. Members of the Ngil, a secret initiative society, played a very important role in Funk society.
They were lawkeepers, and they worked to keep negative forces out of the community. The Ngil were outlawed by French colonial powers in 1910 because of the influence they had over their communities. In 2022, a Japanese protester tried, unsuccessfully, to stop the auctioning of an Ngil mask for £5.25 million.
In theory, I love the idea of learning about real life artifacts, but I think playing it in a video game, I kind of was feeling a little bit like this is kind of sneaky homework, like the kind of thing that you would sit down a 7th grader to do to learn about things in a museum, but really this is homework and we will be quizzed later. It was so much information, so dense all the time. And like I said, I got to a point where I was just like, I just need to finish this. I am overwhelmed by information and underwhelmed by excitement of the gameplay itself. I played this game because I think the concept is really awesome, and I think games like this are important. Center Black voices, center Black stories, center African history. Check, check, check. Throw in a little bit of disability representation because Trevor's arm was missing. I don't know if I mentioned that. He had a robotic arm. And throw in a little bit of gay representation. Love that, okay? And the idea that this whole story kind of like centers around people of the African diaspora because all of the characters were kind of like from different places. So cool. Love that. And in fact, when I was doing like a little bit of preliminary research for this video, there were some people who were trying to critique this game saying that maybe it perpetuates negative stereotypes of Black people stealing things. My first thought when I heard that was like, no, y'all don't actually care about how Black people are portrayed in anything. People are just making up things to be upset about. I saw another white creator make a critique about the game saying that maybe the way that European and white folks were represented in this game was overly simplistic of good versus evil. And I'm like, child. Anyway, Tony Weaver said it best in his YouTube short. Nobody makes judgments about the racial groups of people that make Grand Theft Auto, Payday, or Saints Row. Relooted was developed by the game studio Nyamakop. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Nyamakop is a Johannesburg, South African-based studio with over 30 members of the team. They say that they create original and independent PC and console games for a global audience, and that their games are African-inspired and made by a diverse and inclusive team based primarily in South Africa, but also all over Africa. So they are an African-based studio making games that center Africans and reducing the concept of stealing back things that were stolen from your people to furthering negative stereotypes about Black people is so reductive and ridiculous. Like, the way that never occurred in my mind. You know what it actually made me think of when I first heard about the game? It made me think of Killmonger from Black Panther. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about.
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
Like, yeah, if you're Black and you're even a little woke, you totally think about this. I imagine that this is true for people of other diasporas as well. I just happen to be a part of the African diaspora. So while I am inspired by how the game exists, the fact that it was created by an African gaming studio, and the subject matter of the game, I do feel like personally, my gameplay experience was not that great. How would I rate the game? I would say 2.5 stars, maybe 3. The third act plot twist did add a whole star. If not for the third act plot twist, and if I wasn't a content creator who was trying to make a review video about the game, I'm not even gonna hold you, I would not have finished the game. And in fact, playing this game created a new rule for me in my channel that if I'm not having fun, I'm not finishing the game. The visuals were cool, and I did have fun at first, but the mechanics were just so repetitive, and the additional team members didn't vary the gameplay as much as I wanted it to. I felt like I was playing like the 1.0 version of a game that maybe in the future I would really, really like. I think I was thinking that I was about to play Sly Cooper, but with like Black people and real history. And instead, what I got was someone's term paper from like an African History 101 class turned into a video game for someone else's like video game thesis in their graduate program. Like, it felt like homework. Thank you to my members for sponsoring this video and supporting me as I'm becoming a full-time content creator. If you'd like to become a member to get access to exclusive emotes and support me making more videos like this, check out the information in the description below. I do think games like this are important, and I'm excited to explore more games like this in the future. In fact, you can see my thoughts about the game South of Midnight here. If you have played Relooted, if you would play Relooted, if you have thoughts, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, y'all.